Hi, I'm Astrid, and this is my Outschool Science Fair entry. So my entry is how hibiscus can you get? The objective is to essentially test 4 different mordants to determine which one allows my Falkland fiber to absorb the most color. So what is the purpose of a mordant? This is the Google dictionary definition. A mordant or dye fixative is a substance used to set or bind dyes on fabrics by forming a coordination complex with the dye, which then attaches to the fabric or tissue. It may be used for dyeing fabrics or intensifying stains in cell or tissue preparations. So essentially, the non-scientific version of that is it's a chemical that it can be used to alter a dye color. It can be used to help fix the color so that the fiber really, the fiber takes up the color, or your material, whatever that is. It can be used for quite a few things, but those are basically the essential things. So these are the 4 mordants I'll be using. So iron, also known as ferrous sulfate. That's again the dictionary definition. It does come in a powder form, but I used, I didn't have, it was kind of short notice, so I extracted the mordant from rusty nails. So I actually, I didn't have any rusty nails, but there's new construction like just in the back of my neighborhood. So I just rode my bike and there was tons of rusty nails. But what they do is they soak them in 2 parts water, 1 part white vinegar, outside for you're meant to do it for 2 weeks. And that gives you a lot of mordant that extracts the iron. But I didn't have that time, and I am actually using a really small amount of fiber, which I'm only using 1 ounce for each of these mordants. So after a day or 2, that was enough. So that's why I have in here indeterminable amount. And then also based on most of the instructions you'll find online, you're only supposed to simmer it for 10 minutes, whereas the others, the rest, simmer for 1 hour to mordant, or that is the proper instruction that is most commonly found. So yeah, and this I have a dye pot that I use because some of these chemicals you don't want near your kitchen things. So I'm using those on a few of these chemicals because I don't want them all over my mom's pots. Okay. Here's how I got my mordant extract. Oh, I forgot to mention that. So yeah, 2 rusty nails in a jar, 2 parts water, 1 part white vinegar. Like I said, it's supposed to sit outside for 2 weeks, but I only did a day or 2. And then you just strain it out and you can see you get all the extract from there. And if I go back, you can see, I don't know if you can see here, that's the jar with my mordant extract here, or my iron extract, sorry. And it's basically just a foggy liquid. And so, yeah, it's not, it doesn't look like it has mordant in it, but it's a mordant. Okay, and the next is soda ash, also known as sodium carbonate. There's the dictionary definition. They all have their purposes. Each mordant, like there's one, copper is used to make greens more rich or vibrant. But these are mostly used for, that I'm using in this assignment, is to help soak up the dye or make the dye overall more vibrant and brighter. So for these, because it came from a fine powder, I used 1/4 teaspoon of the powder, because like I said, this is a really small amount of fiber that I'm using on all of these. So it's, you really don't need that much. And then I simmered it for 1 hour. And yes, it's toxic in powder form. So that's again why I used my stainless steel pot for this. Okay, alum, also known as potassium aluminum. Sorry. So yeah, this is one that it is meant to help make colors brighter. Again, I used a 1/4 teaspoon of powder and it simmered for 1 hour. And you can kind of see here, I got it from McCormick actually, which is a kitchen spice brand. So this one is not toxic. It's actually used for pickling and canning, which I did not know. So yeah, let's see, next. And then finally, cream of tartar. In natural dyeing, cream of tartar is typically used to help absorb the fiber, absorb the color. That is the intended reason for this. It is also the same source as baking soda. And this, same thing, 1/4 teaspoon of powder, simmer for 1 hour. So how I kept track, when I was doing the mordanting, actually like on the stove and with the pots, I actually had these sticky notes that I kept near it the whole time. So beside the pot, all of that. It was actually hard when they were drying because they kept blowing away. But once they were dry from mordanting, and before I put them into the dye pot, I put knots on my fiber, just the end. So for the soda ash, for example, I did no ties, and then the next had 1, and then 2, and then 3. And I just did those out of commercial fiber that won't dye, just so that I can keep track once they come out, because I can't put sticky notes in my dye bath. So that's how I kept track. So the source of my dye. So you can extract color from the leaves and the flower. Some people do a mixture of both. A lot of natural dyers will use the leaves, but since my objective is to try and get the reddest hibiscus color that I can, I am using the leaves. And so I took a photo here of the back. I have 2 tea boxes of, they're both hibiscus, but I have 2 just because that's what the store had. But this is how I kept track of like how long I wanted to steep it essentially, and what the source of like the ingredients was. So in this one on the right here, the only ingredient is hibiscus flower. The other one, I don't think it's on here, but it's a blend. It's got some blackberry leaf and lemongrass. So that is not purely hibiscus, but it's only a little bit, so it should still give me a perfect hibiscus color in the dye bath. And so this is also how I followed how long to steep it. So this one said 5 to 10 minutes. The other said less time, I believe. So I put them in for 15 minutes. So it's just a pot of water. Typically, when it comes to natural dyeing, everyone will tell you to simmer it instead of boiling it, because if you boil it, you'll with a lot of dyes, you're just going to get like a brown or a gray. And so if you simmer it, you can actually tempt the color out of whatever you're trying to get the color out of. And so I kind of just left it on a simmer and left it for about 15 minutes, give or take. Okay. And then I put the fiber in with knots and everything. It's kind of hard to say how long I left it there, but you just keep it at a simmer, and you can actually see here how pink the dye bath is. At this point, this is kind of right after I've put the fiber in, so it won't have actually soaked up like much of that color, actually hardly any. It's not very instantaneous like a lot of chemical dyes will be. Um, but you can see that it's a nice pink bath. Oh, and I forgot to mention that after I steeped the tea bags for 15 minutes, I strained it out so that, if anything had split and there was stuff flying around in there, so that it was just the dye bath and no tea leaves or any of that. Um, so yeah, I left this in here for a while, probably like 3 hours. Um, you can essentially just leave it until you feel that it's soaked up enough of the color, um, that it will stay and make like an impression on the fibers almost color wise. Okay, and these are the results. I don't know if you can see it perfectly clearly, but they came out more brown than anything, and the iron, if anything, was the pinkest. The soda ash did the greatest with soaking up the color. It came out the most brown by far. And then it kind of gradiates, kind of in the middle, a bit lighter. Um, but the iron definitely was the pinkest. And so since that was the goal, I'd have to say iron is the winner. I will mention that the most common mordant solution that people will use is a combination of cream of tartar and alum. Because I mentioned before, alum is used to brighten colors, and cream of tartar is used to help the fiber absorb and exhaust the color out of your dye bath. So yes, typically people will use a mixture, but anyways, I have to say iron is the winner, and by far actually. So yeah, I guess that's the results. And thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy.